So you've had a spontaneous awakening and now your nervous system is in absolute overdrive. Your sleep is wrecked, you're panicking, and you really don't feel like yourself anymore. And you've Googled, am I going crazy? Probably more times than you want to admit. And honestly, none of the answers really help you. So this video is going to walk you through a grounded 30-day roadmap to be able to stabilize after your Kundalini awakening with no dogma, definitely no spiritual bypassing, so that you can calm the chaos, rebuild your trust in yourself, finally feel safe in your own body again. Now, my name's Jamie. I had a spontaneous awakening at the age of 19 with zero guidance and no framework to understand it. But later I found a teacher and spent over a decade in deep yogic training with him, breaking down everything so that I could finally make sense of my own experience. And from that, I built a step-by-step path that helps people make sense of their awakening so that they don't have to get stuck in all of the years of doubt and confusion that I see all over the internet. So here's what you're going to discover in this video. You're going to work out why everything feels so weird right now. We're going to understand our perception shock and why our system really feels overwhelmed. We're going to understand the truth about the bliss that you felt after your experience and why it begins to fade, why the initial euphoria doesn't last, and why that's actually a good thing. We're just looking in the wrong place. We're going to understand the void that you're in and how to work with what's here now instead of trying to recreate the past, and why actually you don't want to. And then finally, to remove all confusion, we're going to tell you what your only job is moving forward so that you get exactly what you need so that you can integrate this experience for yourself. See, when a spontaneous awakening happens, your mind cannot keep up with how fast everything in you is shifting. And you start noticing sensations and insights that you've never had before. And because none of this fits your old mental model or your old mental framework, each new experience leaves you wondering, what the bloomin' hell has just happened to me? I can't ignore it. So you're noticing bizarre physical sensations, energy rushes, and emotional swings that don't really match anything that you've ever really felt before. Some moments you feel hyper-aware, some moments you're getting crazy downloads from the universe, and others you feel completely disconnected or like unreal. And so that leads you to trying to function in your daily life and trying to ignore the huge thing that's just happened to you. And because you don't really have anybody in your life who truly gets it, everything feels even stranger and way more intense. I just want to tell you this, what you're feeling is completely normal. It's perception shock. Your system's come online in a way that it never really was before. It always was, we just weren't aware of it. So let's have a look at why this bliss doesn't last. Well, the bliss that you experience that comes from an awakening feels so pure and unmistakable that when it fades, it can hit you like a deep loss with grief. That you can't help wondering what changed, or did I do something wrong? Or am I bad? Am I being punished by God? When really nothing went wrong at all. Do you keep thinking back to how clear and open and amazing everything felt in those first moments of that spontaneous awakening? Part of you quietly panics. It's like, why can't I feel that anymore? And I must confess, I'm not separate from this. After my experience, it was so blissful, I wanted to recreate those energetic sensations in my system again and again and again, but I couldn't. And I was starting to get really frustrated. So at one point, I sat outside in the freezing cold rain, which is a really stupid thing to do, and tried to meditate and force this thing to happen. And I did it for hours. And I came back in with probably low-grade hypothermia. I think my parents were really worried about me at that time. Now, that can be really frustrating. And when old emotions come back up, which they will because you've opened this storehouse of karma now, it really feels like the awakening is slipping through your fingers. You might begin to worry that the bliss that you experienced was the attainment, was the real thing. And everything after is just you screwing this thing up. No one tells you, though, that the bliss is just the spark. The integration afterwards is where the actual transformation happens. And trust me, that is what you want. You don't want to be chasing around this bliss like a drug addict fueled on spiritual crack. Trust me, because you can't recreate it anyway, although weird experiences will happen to you for roughly about the next 18 months. And because this is a survival guide, I just felt like that was appropriate for you to know. But fear not, it's not as bad as your mind might project. So that early euphoria that you experienced, well, it was a spiritual appetizer. It cracked you open, and now it's time to allow the real rewiring of our entire life to begin. So once you've tasted that kind of bliss, a kiss from God, so to speak, it's almost impossible not to try and chase it. But don't, because you're going to keep trying to get back to that peak moment, not realizing that the chase itself is actually what pulls you further away from the integration that you're seeking. And your mind might say, I'm not seeking integration, Jamie. I don't even know what that means, and I don't even care. I just want the high. No, you don't. And I'm hopefully in this survival guide going to show you why. Now, something that you might do is you might try repeating the same meditation. If you got there consciously somehow, you might try and go back to the same place that your awakening happened to try to make it work again. And when it doesn't happen, it's going to feel super disappointing. But what you can't see yet is that chasing the bliss is just actually kind of a way to dodge the uncomfortable parts that our awakening has kind of begun to bring to the surface. That disconnected sense of self that was always there, just that big experience that you had shoved a wedge in the door of it. Nothing's gone wrong. So then if you take on some sadhana, which is your daily spiritual practice, lots of resources down below if you want access to them, then every practice can begin to feel like it's turning into anticipation of this big event, like you're waiting for that big experience to happen again. So your mind ramps up, your nervous system tightens, and the whole thing becomes a whole bunch of pressure rather than presence. This is really not the spiritual process because you can't force it. What the ego thinks is you need another high, but what your system really needs is something much more stable that can begin holding on to all of this new energy without creating breaks in the system. I'm sorry to tell you, you can't force that experience to return, no matter how much you want it. The next stage is learning to work with what's here now, not trying to recreate what's already past. This is the beginning of an authentic spiritual journey. So some time passes, and after that initial bliss fades, a lot of people hit what feels like a huge empty space inside, a massive void. And at first, it's quite unsettling. But as you mature in this process, that same void that you're experiencing as emptiness, as coldness, starts to reveal itself as something completely different. So in the beginning, this stillness, it feels cold, feels hollow, like something important, a massive part of you has disappeared. So you sit with it and wonder, have I lost my connection? Have I done something wrong? Am I going crazy? Like my spark's gone, the energy's not there. Have I lost myself? Am I losing my mind? But the longer you stay with that place, the more you begin to notice, actually, it isn't empty. It's awake. It's alive. And how we warm that space up is by continually connecting to our stillness. And there's a free breathing practice down below that's going to show you exactly how to do that. If you want to access it, you can do that below. Now, as you do that, what felt like a blank vacuum slowly starts to feel full, warm, and honestly, quietly alive. And that aliveness isn't an experience passing through you. It is you, without all of the mental noise that used to sit on top of everything. And this is what the awakening has opened up inside of you. And see, it's really important that you didn't or don't mistake that peak experience for the destination, because highs are always going to come and go. Yeah? The destiny of all things is always to return to stillness. This is what this awakening has opened up inside of you. So what matters is settling into the presence that this peak experience happened in. And that's where the real stability begins to open up for us. So once Kundalini wakes up, your inner world lights up fast, faster than your mind or your nervous system can even begin to process. You start getting insights, intuitive hits and realizations that feel huge, and you're not in control of when they land. And even though part of you is excited, another part of you feels completely thrown off, like how the bloody hell am I going to fit into society again? You will, just not in the way that you were. Because you're getting bursts of clarity and downloads that shift how you see everything almost in an instant. And these insights can feel amazing in the moment, but afterwards, your system can feel quite overstimulated and it can feel quite shaky. And so this is important that we get this right. Your mind is going to try and make sense of it all, but it can't keep up with the pace of what is happening inside of you. And the contrast between insight high, low, and then everyday responsibilities can make normal life begin to feel quite surreal and quite disconnected. And so we're going to have to integrate those two. And if you try to push for more experiences, more realizations, or more awakening, or more high, your nervous system is going to get fried, and it's going to get fried fast because you're going to force, and it won't work. So your system isn't falling apart. There's nothing going wrong. It's just trying to stabilize after a surge of awakening and a massive inner change. And the priority now for you is going to be soothing your nervous system and not trying to force more experiences. Now, a lot of you are gung-ho on this path and probably won't listen to my advice, and that's totally fine. Big kiss to you and enjoy your karma. But if you are finding that your nervous system is quite overstimulated at the moment, then there are lots of resources available down below to try and help you. Now, because this is a survival guide, just a word of warning from a friend who's got a bit of experience on this path and has grown up on the internet and has grown up through my awakening on the internet. When you're overwhelmed and you're looking for answers, it is so easy to end up watching videos that make everything feel even scarier, or even AI videos that make things seem really wonderful. But most of that, and that's really soothing, but most of that content isn't speaking to what you're actually going through. It's just feeding the part of you that already feels unsure or overloaded or inspired. Yeah. So let's focus on the negative aspects of this, because you click on one Kundalini video out of curiosity and suddenly your recommendations are full of warnings and worst case interpretations and personal experiences from people that ended up with psychosis or Kundalini syndrome. And I think the thing that they didn't have the luxury of was a teacher and a professional step-by-step path. So they didn't get professional spiritual education. They just watched YouTube videos, went on Reddit and tried a load of breathing practices. And we do not recommend that you do this at all. Now, some people, especially on Reddit, are speaking with so much certainty and on these online forums that you're going to start doubting your experience. You're also going to start thinking that maybe this was a curse rather than a blessing. And then every new sensation is suddenly going to seem to match something frightening that you've just heard about online. Instead of calming your system, these videos as you doom scroll can crank up your anxiety and make the energy feel way more chaotic than it needs to. And what you need right now is steadiness and clarity, not someone else's fear disguised as guidance. And I think they're all well-meaning. It's just a lot of stuff gets projected from an unresolved path. Now, that's not to say that there aren't great content creators out there that are really helpful. There are, that's for sure. But much like a survival guide in the wilderness, like I want to know, that's like, because I'm a beginner, which mushrooms are going to kill me? You know, which one's going to be okay and fuel my body on my path, and which one's going to poison me and give me a harder time here? So if something begins to amp up your anxiety, it's probably not for you. Switch it off. You see, because I've actually lived this. Like, if you want a step-by-step path that's proven to work and that's worked for hundreds of my students, that's worked for millennia, I mean, it's the same tradition that I've lived, then there are some resources down below that you can access. Now, after an awakening, you can have experiences that really freak you out, because the intensity of experiences can feel a little bit much and your system is going to completely contract and there'll be a lot of fear in you because it's unfamiliar, and honestly, it's out of your control. And it can be tempting to go to alcohol or eat really bad food or weed or something to try and dampen this experience. And you certainly can do that, and it will kind of work. But let's see what's really happening here. Really, you're kind of afraid that if you keep going inward, you're going to open up more than you can manage. And I totally get that, been there. And yes, the intensity can get more before it begins to settle. We've all had, well, a lot of us have had that experience where you wonder if I keep going, am I going to die? Because the mind panics because it can't control this process. But the energy itself isn't actually trying to harm you. It's actually trying to purify you. Now, avoiding our practices, that might feel like the safer option in the moment, but it does stop the process from deepening and it keeps us hovering in the same place instead of letting the awakening actually unfold. When you get a kiss from God, you should probably take it seriously, right? So it's not the energy that we need to tame. If you're actually really honest with yourself, it's the mind's response to it that we need to tame. Once the mind stops reacting in fear to this experience, the intensity begins to stop. You may even start to question, was it my mind's response to the energy that actually was the thing that made all of this unbearable? But now that we've got to the end, I want to tell you what your only job is. And that is to build a boring practice. After an awakening, the temptation is to chase another insight, another surge, another high, another moment that makes us feel powerful and totally connected to God and life. But what actually stabilizes you isn't the high, it's what the high appeared in. Chasing these experiences keeps your system wired and restless instead of grounded. The mind, if it's in this state, is always going to look for a more impressive path, stronger practice that blows my socks off, a bigger teacher that's more famous, a faster answer or something. But the real place of integration is your stillness, and we have to make that full and whole. And to train that, very simply, at the beginning of your path, you need asana, and asana is the physical postures of yoga. So forget chasing the highs and just do the damn practice, because the calm that you're seeking and being able to hold on to more energy comes from the integration of the work. And this is the work, which is settling into the stillness in which all experiences arise and fall, and that's where our freedom is. So now that you understand how to stabilize after a spontaneous awakening, how long does it actually take to integrate Kundalini? And why are most of the timelines that you see online completely bloody wrong? Well, in this next video, we're going to break down the real stages of your Kundalini awakening and what to expect in each one, and how to finally stop wondering if you're behind everybody else or maybe going crazy. All right, you can watch that one right there.